Meanwhile, this Fox News alert and more testimony happening now in a grand jury case that could lead to an indictment against former President Trump. Minutes ago, witness Robert Costello arrived at the courthouse in Manhattan. He once served as a legal advisor to President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen. The former president says he expects to be arrested tomorrow in a hush money case brought by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Our next guest has been highly critical of Bragg, arguing he's bringing the case back from the dead. Jonathan Turley is with us now. Jonathan, why would he do that?
Well, this is the ultimate gravedigger's indictment. He went back 7 years to dig up what's really a misdemeanor under New York law. And he's trying to use that to combine it with parts of the federal code to litigate a federal election violation that the Department of Justice declined to bring to court, declined to charge. Now, if that's not weird enough, he has to be able to make that linkage because he's run out of time. I mean, the statute of limitations on that misdemeanor is just 2 years. So there's a great deal of problem with this indictment that's being reported in the media. But the real problem, I think, ultimately is the weaponization of the criminal justice system for political purposes. I mean, Bragg has just given Donald Trump the ultimate case positive of his claim that the system is being used for political purposes. I do think this is a political prosecution. Bragg himself threw a flag on this play. When he came into office, he stopped this case from moving forward. 2 of his prosecutors resigned. Yeah. And then there was this public campaign to pressure him to move forward.
In your piece, which you begin, it's moving, it's alive, it's alive, it's moving, it's alive, talking about Bragg bringing this criminal case back from the dead. But you say, but he may have reanimated Trump's chances. You write this: the 1931 movie Frankenstein came to mind this week as Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg prepared an indictment of former President Donald Trump. It is the ultimate gravedigger charge, you write, where Bragg unearthed the case from 2019 and through a series of novel steps is seeking to bring it back to life. You also, though, detail and write about Bragg attempting something you say many lawyers think is as improbable as the reanimation of the dead. Explain further and what we're about to see happen. What do the next couple of days hold?
Well, there's a host of legal principles designed to keep this from happening. That, you know, you're taking something that has a statute of limitations of 2 years and trying to bring it back to life 7 years later. But also you have the Manhattan DA trying to effectively litigate a federal crime that the federal government didn't feel needed to be litigated, didn't bring to court. All of that is troubling in and of itself. But you then combine that with the timing here. We're in the middle of a presidential election, and you have Bragg going to these extraordinary steps to try to prosecute Donald Trump. And for Trump, he could not have hoped for a better case to start with. He's being threatened on a number of fronts. If he had to choose, this would be it. I mean, because Bragg is completing the narrative. He's giving him an example of the very thing that Trump has been complaining about, that he's being targeted for political purposes. I just don't see how you could reach any other conclusion. I mean, nobody seriously thinks that any individual except Donald Trump would warrant or bring this type of rather bizarre legal theory to life.
But for his part, the former president says he does expect to be arrested tomorrow, Jonathan. To your point about the serious challenges to this prosecution, you say there are many, but most importantly, you say an argument that time has expired under the statute of limitations. Is that the ultimate end-all, be-all here, Jonathan?
Well, Bragg can try to what's called toll the statute. There are arguments that he can make. If he can bootstrap this federal crime into his Manhattan case, he can extend that statute of limitations to 5 years. But even that seems to be a bit expired at this point. But then you have to get the court to agree that this type of bootstrapping is allowed under state law. Now, he might be able to get a favorable judge. He certainly can get a likely favorable jury in New York. But that also means that this is going to face very significant appellate challenges. It also means that this is likely to extend beyond the election. And so this is going to be out there during the course of the presidential debates in all likelihood, unless it's dismissed before then.
Very interesting. We thank you for your analysis on that. Jonathan Turley, thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.